Welcome. This is Chipicon, and welcome to the Otherworldly show. And by the way, I will inform you that today is the second day of the second month of the 22nd year of the second millennium. Also Wednesday. But there you go.
And number 2 today. So,
and tonight our guest is Lon Milo DuQuette, who is going to be talking about divination. Not that he couldn't talk about tons of other things, and if he so chose, and if we do, yes, he wrote the Book of Ordinary Oracles, which we got up there now, and I really recommend it as one of the most useful general divination books, and I am sure we will have some great conversations from him, and if we stay on topic, I will be exceptionally surprised. So, because divination is, it hooks into everything else. And one of the reasons that I like Ron's attitude, he's got 19 books out there. Now, I am not a fan of ceremonial magic, but he does everything. And I enjoyed every workshop I've managed to get to. And you may not remember me. We have bumped together in various conferences, but I'm not, I don't know if I'm memorable or not. So.
of course you are, but I forget easy at my age.
I am notorious for forgetting people's names.
Yeah. Oh, I'm forgetting your name. I'm shaking your hand. Yes.
Who's going to? I mean, Chipicon. If you call yourself Chipicon, then you deserve to have your name forgotten. But anyway, so tonight we are going to be talking to you about your divination book, and if we can convince you we love you enough to come back another time, we will try to do that.
And what do I have to do?
Yeah. Anyway, so one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because to me it speaks to the issue of, one of the things in the book he talks about is how you deal with when you're tired and when you're hungry and when your brain is absolutely fried, how you keep reading and have faith in the oracle that you're using. And do you remember the story about trying to play a joke on a young girl named Daphne and making up a horrible tale about her being the priestess of a frog temple in, do you remember that?
I should think
Yes. Yes, I remember it with shame. Yes.
Well, that was the great thing about the book, is you were saying, oh God, I'm being really mean to this girl, but she got a good reading out of it.
In spite of everything, it seemed like it worked. And I guess the reason divination works when it does work is because for at least a fraction of a second, somebody gets out of their own way to actually see what's going on. And about 90% of the mechanics of a divination, the process itself, either manipulating the sticks in the I Ching or shuffling the tarot cards or rolling the dice or throwing the sheep's knuckles or whatever you're using, 90% of the mechanics of that is just a trick to get yourself out of your own way long enough to see the answer that is screaming at you from all directions.
Like, could it have anything to do with a black horse?
Sure. That's right.
Another story from the book. Really, go out, get the book. It's a great, buy it new so he gets his 5 cents or whatever. I don't know what an author gets on.
Yes, yeah, yes. Buy a 6-pack. You don't even have to read it. Okay.
Oh, good.
No, but you can
Just buy it.
you're in and get the little oracles on the side of each page.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Thank you very much. You're my best salesman. See that little. There you go. What does yours say there?
It's a toss-up.
It's a toss-up. I was speaking at INATS, okay, the International New Age Trade Show, okay, and it was in, I guess it was in Denver that year, and they had sort of a show with several authors that got up, and there was Wayne Dyer, and there was Melman. I forget Melman's name, but he's the peaceful warrior guy. Dan Melman, wonderful guy. He did a handstand on a grand piano at this. But for some reason, this book came out. And for some reason, my publisher talked them into letting me be the MC of this show. And the Wayne Dyer had spoken so long at his presentation just before this that everybody else was late. Okay, so that was the running gag that yeah, I would have been here an hour earlier, except Wayne Dyer kept everybody. But anyway, I shamelessly plugged this book. I mean, it was shameless. You know, I held it up. I said, "Have I told you that I've got a new book?" You know, and it was kind of a running gag. And I talked about these thumbnail oracles that are on every page. Okay, so all you have to do is ask a question. Oh, please, what's the wisest thing I can tell everybody at this event here? Like a trodden serpent, turn and strike.
Turn and strike. Okay.
But I demonstrated it for this a very large audience. And I said, what can I tell them about the you know, my talk here today? And it says, it'll feel so good when it stops. I said, yes. So yeah, the whole book is an oracle, but every book is an oracle. Okay.
Yes.
And anything could be an oracle if you really know your question. You're 99.99999999% there to get the answer. If you really know the question, you've already received the answer, and it's screaming at you from every direction, and all you have to do is get out of your way long enough to see it. And that's why you can get a divinatory answer off of the back of the ketchup bottle at the diner, or you can get it from a newspaper, or you can get it from a license plate in front of you as you're driving. But you have to know what you want to know. And if you don't know what you want to know, then your divination is doomed. Now, I read tarot cards for people, but I'm not like a fortune teller kind of thing. I'm not psychic.
We're all psychic.
Or I'm no more psychic than anybody. Okay, I'm as psychic as anybody. Okay, which means I'm not psychic at all. But the way I read tarot cards is I just talk with the client long enough to find out what it is they really want to know. And so the divinatory process may take a half an hour or an hour, And 45 minutes of that hour is us determining what they really want to know deep down inside. And it's seldom what they think they want to know when they first come for the reading. Okay. And they'll often ask questions that concern the behavior or the circumstances of somebody else. Nah, it's the client's reading. It's not the client's husband's reading. It's not the client's wife or boss's reading. You know, I'm not going to predict the future. Why do you want to know this is what I want them to come to grips with. And once they come to grips with, we talk a little while longer until I actually hit the sweet spot and find out what it is that they really want to know. And when that happens, a light bulb goes off in both of our heads. I shuffle the cards. I pull my simple Lon's Roll with the Flow tarot. And they're ready to see the answer in any observable phenomena. And at that time, I could Bibliomancy, tarot cards, I Ching. If you really know your question, your answer is everywhere.
Now, this is not to say that you also don't know a lot about symbolism, which you've gotten from, 30, 40, 50 years of esoteric study.
Right. And and I guess that's where the reputation for fortune tellers being crazy people. Crazy people are rich in in symbolic communication. So.
Now, I'm sorry, I keep thinking about a friend of mine who was out on a retreat to discover a spirit animal, and he got skunk. And he was kind of bummed about that. And then the skunk came walking up onto the porch of the cabin and just walked over and looked at him and sauntered off, that casual way skunks do. And he realized how badass a skunk really is. Oh gosh, I didn't mean it that way.
Literally badass.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not a cougar or a,
right, something sexy.
But it's not. It was a good thing. But anyway, but when you say, yeah, knowing the symbols, you that's the cool thing about symbols. It's like they've got so much depth. But
right, and well, the thing is, everything, all language, in a sense, is a collection of symbols that are communicating us certain ideas or certain emotions, even. And so the more you're armed with symbols, the more you have a vocabulary of symbolic images, the easier it is for the symbols to tell a story. And in the same way that in dreams, they always deal with what is and what is not a symbol in your dream, a symbol for something else. I work a lot with Enochian magic. which is vision magic. You don't whip up Enochian spirits to have them go run an errand for you or anything else. What you're actually doing is trying to tap into levels of universal consciousness to get informed, to get, I want to say, trying to say information, but it's more than information. It's you want to be informed at a higher level of your own consciousness. So you try to access those levels. And so in a allegorical sense, in a metaphoric sense, in a symbolic sense, you're communicated the language, the information you're communicated in symbols, in a vision that you're having. And I'm really fascinated by that kind of work, because in a sense, each of the Enochian calls is sort of like triggers a specific trance. In the same way that, let's say, ideally you had a certain drug, that you take that drug and it opens you up to that level of consciousness long enough for you to observe reality at that level. And with Enochian magic, it enables you to do that for 5 minutes, and you do it without drugs. So it's like ringing a magical bell, and as that bell is ringing in your ear, you see the heaven at that level. Okay, and so the angels that appear are your own construct. So we can have a room full of people at, say, a group session of Enochian magic. We recite the call, or like we ring that bell, and we all hear it, and we're all kind of stoned for a few minutes at that level. We all have our own trance at that level, and everybody has a different kind of vision, because everybody is armed with a different vocabulary of symbolic images that mean things just to them, if that makes sense. And some of the best Enochian scryers we've observed over the years are those people who in just regular life are armed with a rich vocabulary of those images. People who just love movies, old movies. So actors and people who are fascinated by a broad range of movies, especially historic movies, costume dramas, and things like that. And they're just armed with 1,000 rich symbolic angels, if you will, to communicate stuff with them. Does that make any sense to you at all?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
So
It does to me. Well, it sounds to me like it triggers certain things. People talk about the effects of color on the mind.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or sound, or notes, vibratory notes. So it's
the more images have passed before your eyes, you're saying, the more vocabulary you have for symbolism.
right. In the same way that a person with a large vocabulary, once they get poetically inspired, can write a richer, more textured poem.
Okay.
I was hoping to get you at some point. I think this might go back a little bit to the getting to the question, but one of your chapters is about the Oracle of Cohen or Coin,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yes.
how you managed to, with just the binary yes, no, 0, 1, with a flipping of a coin, get really specific divination with it, which to me speaks to how divination works and how the soothsayer interacts with their system. Do you
Yeah,
do you use that often, or was that just something you were doing running up to the book?
well, I haven't used it to the extent of the examples that I give in the book in some time. It deals with at one level of reality, one that we don't grasp very often. There's an incredibly smooth environment where there is no duality whatsoever. Okay, ultimate reality is non-dual.
Mm-hmm.
And their subject and predicate are the same thing, okay, at that level. But in this world below that level, or this level of consciousness below that sublime smooth point, and the Kabbalists would say that's up in the supernal triad, 1, 2, and 3, and everything else below that is false or illusory, and is based on a separation from that sublime singularity, and that duality thing where there's either something is or it isn't, right, left, hot, cold. All of that is like a bump in the road of that smoothness, and that bump creates a vibration that is really holding together the illusion that we normally see as objective reality. So it may be an illusion, but it's the one we're stuck with for most of the time. Okay. But it's the one we wake up to in the morning and bump our illusionary head against and it hurts, you know. And so divination, up to a point, has to deal with the source of this bump, and the source of this bump is duality itself. And so the ultimate, the purest that you can get in, or the highest you can get in approaching the sublimity of duality, is something either is or it isn't. So I don't care what the odds are of me winning the California lottery. They're huge, okay? No matter what the official odds are of me winning the lottery, I'm either going to win it or I'm not. So it all comes down to it's either or. That's the ultimate truth at this level of consciousness, this below the abyss level of consciousness. And so all oracles at their fundamental structure is this duality. So as I was writing this, I was trying to explain this in a goofy, approachable way. I talk about the Oracle of Cohen in order to actually consult the Oracle of Cohen, you reach in your pocket and you pull out a coin and flip a coin. It's a coin, okay? And it works for a yes or no kind of question. It works 100% of the time. It's 100% accurate on a yes, no, or either or kind of question. The trick is that at any given microsecond, the universe down here is toggled in such a way as yes is a heads, or it's toggled in a way where yes is a tails. Okay. And the thing, and the magic is, the divination is, you have to intuit when that switch has taken place. Okay. So and I give the example of how the I Ching was originally developed. Some people, tribes people or something, wanted to know whether they should, if there will be victory if they attack the neighboring village. So they throw a tortoise shell in the fire, and it cracks in a certain way that tells them that it's affirmative, there will be victory. And then they go attack the next village next door, and they get their butts whipped. And then they figure, well, we didn't word that question very well, because there was victory, but it was their victory, you know.
A mighty empire will fall.
And eventually they said, look, we can zero in on this if we do like 2 out of 3. Okay, if it seems like it's heavily leaning one way or another, we can intuit it a little bit better. And so they don't fine tune the oracle, they fine tune themselves.
Mm.
And that 2 out of 3 thing created the trigrams, the 8 trigrams of the I Ching. And they figured, well, if we double those trigrams, we can even get closer to intuiting where this is all going. And that's how an oracle like that developed. But as you're reducing everything in your issue to a yes or no question, and I give the example of, I wanted to know when I use the pendulum, what is the name of the spirit that controls my pendulum?
Mm.
Okay. And I use the theory of the Oracle of Cohen. You know, if your pendulum goes to the right, it's a yes, and if it goes to the left, it's a no. It's a very simple thing like that. And so I decided to use the pendulum. I tied my pendulum to the tip of my wand, my magic wand. I looked like a fat guy holding a little fishing pole, you know. And I'd ask the question. I wanted to find out if it was in a book in my house, and it said yes. And I said, is it in a book downstairs? No. Is it in a book upstairs? Yes. And it just, I don't know how many questions I asked to finally get the answer, but it took me away from the books, and I was asking, well, can I pick it out letter by letter with Scrabble tiles? Yes, you know, and I get out Scrabble tiles and I go, yes, and I pick out the letters. Oh, it's a goofy thing, but the idea was, it was me that was getting tuned up. It was me that was doing it. And I finally got the name of the spirit. And the whole thing was kind of funny. It had insulted me on the way up and was obscene and everything, just like my subconscious is. So. But anyway, if when in doubt, flip a coin.
And this kind of leads to the what you said beautifully, and I think we've had 2 or 3 workshops on this at the conference. How to read for yourself, what you have to do to get yourself, because most people say, well, it's really hard to read for yourself. Well, yes, it is hard, but it can be done and done successsopply. I think one of my more amusing examples was we were out car shopping, and I pulled out, I didn't have cards with me, so I pulled out my all the frequent diner cards and the pizza shop card and the fabric shop, and my license and picture, and I just laid out your basic Celtic cross spread. And since my family all knows how to read cards, we looked at it, and it totally made sense because we knew what the positions were, and we could tell what those different silly cards meant. But yeah, reading for yourself, I find it, yes, it's difficult, but you have to. I would like to have Baba Lon give us his wisdom on that one, because they haven't got the books yet. They'll go out and get them, trust me.
Yeah, it's I can't read tarot cards for myself. Because I lie to myself so easily.
That'll do it.
And you believe yourself.
And I said, oh, death crosses the tower. I was hoping for that, you know. No, I can't read for myself as far as a divinatory thing. I can come up with a question, but even that is suspect. Okay, it's much easier for me to get out of the way of a client or a friend than it is to get out of my own way. But the I Ching does not allow me to easily lie to myself. The I Ching does not care about my feelings. The I Ching just says what I need to hear, and it doesn't care how bad it makes me feel. And so I'm more inclined that when I'm serious about at least trying to get a frank and cosmic answer to a question, I consult the I Ching. And I'm sure that there's many other oracles out there, but I've done the I Ching for so many years that I've gotten used to being repeatedly insulted.
Well,
and humiliated. So
the gods, you gotta have, the gods have to be able to slap you upside the head and say, hey, doofus, listen. Because if you don't listen, then they will have to take out the cosmic clue by 4.
Right.
Slap you upside the head with. And,
so,
but
yeah, I love that the Wilhelm Baines translation of the I Ching, that with the introduction by Carl Jung. It's kind of the classic yellow one that you see everywhere, and it's got a full set of the commentary in back, and it's got the text up front. And I've gotten very used to how that one speaks to me. But I've actually taken that Wilhelm Baines, all 64 hexagrams and all 6 lines of those 64 hexagrams, and put them in a very distilled and irreverent way myself. And I call that the I Ching of Milo. And
Hey, if it works, you know.
yeah, and so I use that. Crowley did a version of the I Ching, and as much as I like Crowley, I can't seem to make his I Ching work for me. But it is so universal. Okay. And like I said, it's based on numbers, and truth reveals itself in perfection. The answer may be screaming at you from every direction once you know the question, but it screams at you loudest in beauty and in perfection. And that's why tarot is such a good divinatory tool, because it's both perfect from a Kabbalistic point of view, and it's beautiful. And you know, when you've got a problem or something, you need to work it out, you take a walk and you go to a park or walk along the beach or something, and just the beauty and the perfection of nature all of a sudden just puts you in a spot where things start to make sense to you. I don't know if you're ever had a chance to visit a European cathedral, or any of the great, even in the United States, the great Masonic buildings of the late 19th and early 20th century. They might not have known why, but they were built along lines of sacred geometry and things like that. You just walk into them, and all of a sudden, all your imbalances and all your imperfections and all your personal and emotional asymmetry and conflicting circuitry all of a sudden yearns to be that perfect yourself. And just walking in all of that mathematical perfection and symmetry, all of a sudden you feel yourself almost being squirted with divine WD-40. You start to rearrange. Okay, it's like a psychic chiropractic adjustment, and you come out feeling that you're more perfect, that you're more in tune with nature, that you're more where you're at and what you should be. And that's what working with the perfection of mathematics like the I Ching, based on 3s and 8s, and which is the foundation of 8 makes it mercurial. Okay, the sphere of Mercury on the tree of life. So it's built on 8s, and it's perfect. Okay, sublimely perfect. And the Kabbalah is based on 4s and 10s. Okay, and out of that 4 and 10, we've got other numbers like 22 which is built from 3 7s and 12s, which actually describes the dimension that we're in. Up, down, right, left, front, back is your 3. The walls and ceilings in the center make it 7, and the 12 edges of that universal cube that creates space itself is 12. It's just so perfect. It squeaks, and the idea that when we work with a divinatory tool that's based on that 3, 7, and 12 and 10 and everything else, without even thinking of it, we are wallowing in that perfection. In the same way, when you enter one of those Masonic buildings or one of those cathedrals, you're wallowing in that perfection. Does that make any? Am I just wallowing in this conversation?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, the concept of perfection that you mentioned, you also mentioned that when you talk about the Mark Twain Oracle in the book. What is that thing that every time I encounter it, I just say, man, it's so perfect.
Yeah.
And it was Mark Twain.
It was Mark Twain. Yeah. And
have you used that with other authors or themes as well? Or?
hey, if you think they're perfect, absolutely.
Very proud of it.
Yeah. Oh, the Mark Twain Oracle it's one of my favorites. At Pantheacon once I did a demonstration of it.
Yeah.
And someone asked, we were having fun. I like to goof around and stuff like that. But someone came and asked the question for me to give as an example. And the question was like, was Billy's death a murder or a suicide?
Mm.
And it sort of brought everybody down in the room. But we did the Mark Twain Oracle, which uses quotes from Tom Sawyer. And the answer was a quote, the switch was held high, the danger was imminent, or something like that. Tom Sawyer was getting ready to get whooped, in other words. And when I read that aloud, the woman said, "That's all I need to know." Okay.
I like any oracle that is very specific. This is one thing that people are always complaining about with divination and soothsayers. When you say something general and they only remember the things that you said that they see apply to them. So all you do is you give a general reading, and so then everybody goes away because it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But go to the I Ching and you go to some of these oracles and they're freaking specific. Could you okay, thinking back to this being the second day of the second month of the second, would that translate to the number 2 I Ching hexagram? Could you read and see what's in there on?
Let's turn to the Oracle of Milo. And read number 2. Of course, number 1 is the positive, okay?
Yeah.
The 6 unbroken lines, the creative. But number 2 is the receptive, okay? The all female. Don't lead, follow quietly.
That's specific.
That is very specific. And let's see what Wilhelm Baines said about it. The real I Ching. Let's see. Creative. The judgment. The receptive brings about sublime success, furthering through the perseverance of a mare. The horse mare.
Oh, okay.
Not the mayor of New York.
Yeah.
The mayor.
Definitely not the mayor of New York.
If the superior man undertakes something and tries to lead, he goes astray.
Mm.
But if he follows, he finds guidance. It is favorable to find friends in the west and south, and to forego friends in the east and the north. Quiet perseverance brings good fortune.
Okay.
And the directions in the I Ching mean various things. And let me try to find our north and south. The time of toil and effort is indicated by the west and the south. For the west and south symbolize the place where the receptive works for the creative. Toil and effort. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, number 2. If in that situation one does not mobilize all of one's powers, the work to be accomplished will not be done. Hence, to find friends there means to find guidance. But in addition to the time of toil and effort, there's also a time of planning. And for this, we need solitude. And then there's an image that goes with each of these two. The earth's condition is receptive devotion. Thus, the superior man who has breadth of character carries the outer world. Now,
That's a lot more specific.
that is specific. Now, because we're working on 2, okay, the second line from the bottom is called line number 2. There's a special little message for that one. Shall we read that one?
Okay.
Straight, square, great, without purpose, yet nothing remains unfurthered. The symbol of heaven is a circle, and that of the earth is a square. This squareness is a primary quality of the earth. On the other hand, movement in a straight line as well as magnitude is a primary quality of the creative. But all square things have their origin in a straight line and in turn form solid bodies. In mathematics, when we discriminate between lines and planes and solids, we find that a rectangular plane results from a straight line and a cubic magnitudes from a rectangular plane. This is telling me nothing. Okay. It doesn't have to tell you nothing. But if that line changes, it changes the whole hexagram into another hexagram. And so I'm going to look that up right now. Okay, there's our number.
Number 7.
Is it now number 7?
I believe so.
The Army?
Yes.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, that is. The Army. The Army needs perseverance and a strong man, good fortune without blame. When I first joined the OTO, my initiator, Grady McMurtry, brought out Crowley's I Ching sticks. Okay, and Crowley just used sticks that look like this. Okay, sort of. Okay, and he also brought out Crowley's own I Ching that from Crowley's library that Crowley used for to write his own notes out in the margins while he was preparing his own translation. And so I got to ask Crowley's I Ching using Crowley's sticks. And I said, what is the OTO to me? And it came up the army.
Oh.
Just like that. But what we've got here is a three-part answer. Okay. We've got this receptive, totally receptive, totally female, totally broken lines, receptive, don't try to lead, follow. And then we've got this strange comment about straight lines and okay, indicating the realities of dimensional space and the earth. And it changes then to the army. If I was to take this as an oracle to number one, characterize the earth situation, the world situation at this particular point, I would at least be conscious of the possibility of a major world conflict of some kind that is going to require the leadership of armed forces. And just looking at today's Ukrainian stories,
News, yeah.
I hope I'm reading this wrong.
Yeah.
So.
Uh,
that dear?
Because no one's in charge.
Because no one's in charge, she says. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not volunteering.
No.
So
No.
before you leave the I Ching, though, I really want you to mention it. Just tickled my heart to read how you had made the set of I Ching wands with chopsticks. When I first encountered the I Ching, I went out and found a store that had the bundle of 50 yarrow sticks, and I tried it's like, oh my, and I decided the I Ching was not for me.
Yeah.
And but you made it simplified, it not having that clever little bundle you just held up. Tell people how they can make their own set.
Well, first of all, if you have 6 popsicle sticks, just take 6 popsicle sticks and draw a vertical line down the center of one side of each, and on one of them put little dots on the ends of both sides, and that'll give you and then all you have to do is ask your question, sort of shuffle the sticks and throw them, and then rearrange them just sort of where they fall relative to your knees or your feet or something. And the one with the dots on it will be the moving line.
Ah.
Okay. But the chopstick one gives you the opportunity to have no moving lines, 6 moving lines, or anything in between, which is more like the odds that you get when you manipulate the 50 or 49 yarrow stocks or wooden dowlings. And for that, you can get 6 chopsticks, the kind of chopsticks that that are not completely cylindrical, but the classic bamboo chopsticks that you get down at the grocery store. Okay, the tips of them, where you pick up your food, are cylindrical. but the other end are cubical. Okay, they got 4 even sides. So cut those chopsticks so you have a length of a rectangular cubes like that. And on one side of of each of the cubes, you draw a vertical line down the middle. Now the opposite side of that side, you leave completely blank. Okay. So that side is the one with the line on it is your broken line, and the opposite side is the unbroken line.
Okay.
Now flip it over one and draw 2 little lines down the center, vertical lines down the center, and that's your moving yin line. Okay. And then flip it to its opposite, and then toward the ends of the others of the opposite side, you put 2 vertical lines, and that's your moving yang line or your unbroken one. So that when you throw that like dice, it'll tumble, and it'll either give you a broken line, an unbroken line, or a moving broken line, or a moving unbroken line. And they turn into their opposites when they, for that second reading. So, and then you wrap them up and sell them for $40 at your local.
Handcrafted.
Yep. My bamboo skewers cheap, mark them up and get rich.
Yeah.
But I just love the irreverence, total respect for the systems, and irreverence for all the silliness that your attitudes are wonderful. I do hope we can get you back. I must admit that one of my favorite things which I use of yours is the Pop Goes the Weasel Ganesha chant.
No, good Lord.
Well, he's so practical. It's like, rather
He
than
is, yes.
to have, you only have to count, because if you say Ganesha, 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 you don't have to count so many, and it makes it a lot easier to think about his wonderfulness, who is very fond of sweets. We have a little Ganesha, and we give him sweets whenever I bake.
All right. And I think Ganesha just loves it. No,
Oh God, yes.
personally told me.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but yes, the combination of practicality and humor and everything, and it would be, I think it'd be wonderful to have you back to talk about the things that you are. What was your last book? I think I just bought it, but I don't remember what it is because I haven't read it yet.
I think the last book was Allow Me to Introduce.
Ah, right. Yeah, I bought it, but I haven't read it yet. So
Oh, well, you've already done the important thing.
yes, but not for me. I've done the important thing for you, but not the important thing for me.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, quick before we get off, does anybody in the audience have questions they were hoping that it hadn't been answered yet? Or
Well, I
Sure.
actually have a tidbit to come.
I think Will has.
Oh. No, Will has, anyway, well, Will has his hand up. I was just going to post a quick link to one of the most fascinating translations of the I Ching I've ever encountered in my life. And it's at the website of a fellow named Bradford Hatcher, who also has a ton of other fascinating concepts. And his translation does not read like anybody else's. And, you know, he starts off explaining, all right, there are 4 syllables in the first line. Each syllable has 4 possible meanings. So I highly recommend this.
Now, what's his name again?
Bradford Hatcher.
Bradford Hatcher.
All right. All right.
There it is.
BRADFORD. And that will take you to his
There's now a link in
homepage.
chat for everybody.
There.
Yep, there's a link in chat, and that's his name spelled out.
Okay.
And I just
All right.
I discovered this years ago, and I went, wow, this is different. Because I was chugging through the Tao Te Ching and the I Ching, and I hit this guy's stuff, and I said, well, I was thinking outside the box. So that was all I really had to say there.
Okay.
So, William,
Bill.
William,
Oh, greatly honored frater, have you discovered anything about tyromancy?
Tyromancy, divination by tires.
By cheese.
Oh, by keys?
Keys.
geez,
Cheese.
Keys. Cheeseomancy.
Why don't we just call it Limburgermancy?
No, 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 no.
Swiss,
No.
go ahead, better.
No, but I would be interested in, does it have anything to do with digestion?
I finally tracked down something in one of the reference books. And it says, all we know is that this method was practiced in ancient Greece.
Well, it's probably the observation of how the mold grows,
Probably.
which would actually,
The pattern of veins.
yeah, and something that you set aside for a few days or weeks or something as certain prayers are said over it. It makes as much sense as looking at an animal's liver.
Well, yeah, and a
Yeah.
quick search result here. Tyro is as Tyro mancy, from the Greek turos, meaning cheese.
Wow.
So, and derived from the Greek turos, cheese, in Mantea, divination, divining the past, present, and future by, let's see, more than that line there. By the observing the fermentation and coagulation of cheese.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's all go out
Blessed
and
are
make
the
cheese.
cheese makers.
So they'll know when to run. Yeah.
Maybe that's what Jesus meant when he said, "Blessed are the cheesemakers."
There you go.
Oh yeah, I'll buy
Well,
that.
We're all going to thank you very much. I'm seeing thanks in the chat room, but we should let you go because you probably have supper to go to.
Well,
He's on the other coast.
I've got a friend who's coming to help me install my new computer.
Oh,
Cool.
who needs
I've
food
been-
when you have a new computer?
These are people to take care of.
Well, I've never bought a computer. I'm like Blanche Dubois.
Depending on the kindness of
on the
strangers.
kindness of others. And all my life I've depended upon the kindness of others. So my friends in China sent me a beautiful MacBook Pro, and I don't have the wit to set it up and transfer my stuff. So
Hmm.
I'm having a normal person come over and help.
Well,
Oh Lord.
I will probably attempt to have you come back again because
Oh yeah.
I just love
I'm
your
sure
perspectives.
we have barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Having said thank you, I'm going to remind people the next week, Griffin Brook is going to be talking to us about preparing for death in the best possible way.
Mhm.
How to not let somebody in the family's death rip the family apart. So
Mhm.
Mm.
that's it's an important thing. So
Yeah.
and we got more guests coming up, but thank you very much for everybody for coming, and
Yes,
thank you
thank you.
especially and pushing the button.